Hey guys, welcome back. Well, Capcom dropped a lot of bombs on us last week about the Resident Evil 4 remake, and I gotta say, I am a little impressed. It actually looks quite good, and it looks like some of those leaks about it were a little bit wrong. Um, it looks really, really good. I'm actually kind of psyched to check it out. Do have one complaint. Um, Where's my laser? The laser sight's gone. That could be maybe, hopefully, it's a setting you can activate. But I don't know. I hope it is. Is it a game killer? No. I'll still play it and hope that they patch it in later as DLC or with an update or something. But even if they never do, it's not gonna kill the game for me. It's just that laser. When Resident Evil 4 came onto the scene, it started a lot of trends. It was a trendsetter just like the original Resident Evil. And that laser was something very uniquely, it became something very uniquely associated with Resident Evil, and then it also inspired copycats, like Dead Space. Dead Space used a laser. And the cool thing about the laser is, I mean, if this game is not a shooter, but it's supposed to be more of a horror game, the laser has more of a. There's a bigger sense of verisimilitude. Certain games that have like a very minimal HUD are meant to be more immersive, and a laser sight is one way you can do that rather than a big old targeting reticle, which reminds you immediately that it's a video game. But with a laser sight, it just looks it looks more it's more minimalistic, and it just stylistically I think it's better for a game like this. Um, I didn't notice, but over time the laser changed, and I didn't realize it until they re-released 4, 5, and 6 on PS4 and Xbox One, and so I got to play 4, 5, and 6 back to back with each subsequent month, and that's when I realized that starting with Resident Evil 6 they changed the laser. In 4 and 5 the laser beam itself was very like threadbare and very thin, and it didn't obstruct your vision much, and the laser dot didn't even appear until it was hovering over an enemy or an interactive part of the environment, and that's how you should do it. I mean, a lot of you guys that played Resident Evil 4 probably know what I mean, but I mean, we used to shoot fucking like projectile weapons out of the air with it. It was fucking cool. And then starting with Resident Evil 6, they changed it. The laser beam was more visible. I don't know if because people complained that it wasn't as visible, but the dot was on screen. And this was the same in Resident Evil Revelations 2 and things like that. But I'm not hung up on the. I don't want to. I don't want to go on forever about the laser because the game itself, the remake, is looking pretty damn good. Yeah, some things are a little different, but it looks more like things that were added to the story and things like that. And I want to be clear, even though my last video was sort of wary of what they might change and things like that, I do want to say I don't mind them adding things, because even the original Resident Evil remake on the GameCube added stuff, but it didn't take things out. And what I am ultimately worried about is what could be taken out and what would the reason be for that. I'll give you a few good examples. Lisa Trevor from Resident Evil, the first one, the remake. She's not in the original 1996 version, that's for sure. All that stuff was added, and it was pretty cool. It gives you backstory into George Trevor, the architect of the mansion, and various other structures throughout Raccoon City and throughout wherever Umbrella has bases and buildings. That all was added, and the backstory of what happened to him, this and that. I mean, it fleshed out the world of Resident Evil in that remake, and it made it pretty awesome. And pretty much always everyone acknowledges it as canon going forward, and That's cool to me. In Resident Evil 2, Sherry Birkin's segment in the game was a lot different in the remake, and it makes total sense why. If they'd kept it the same, you would have had Sherry running away from zombies, and with graphics looking the way they do now, if they'd left it that way in the remake, you'd see zombies chomping down on a little girl, and I don't know if everyone would have been okay with that. Wouldn't it would have surprised me, but I also would have been like, wow, that was ballsy, Capcom. You just showed those zombies just chomping on a little girl. But also, Sherry's defenseless anyway, even in the original Resident Evil 2, and it's not cool to have to just run away from zombies as a very defenseless person. It's one of the reasons I hope they really tweak the Ashley segment in the Resident Evil 4 remake. But those are just two examples of things that were either added or changed. And it makes sense in both of those cases. Now, in Resident Evil 2, I've mentioned this before, there were things taken out, though. Like, there was that whole segment, that whole separate wing of the Umbrella facility that you don't explore in the remake. And by extension, you don't run into the giant moth, which the giant moth was kind of an optional part of the game, of the original game, but still, like, you want to be able to talk to someone who's younger and only played the remake about parts that you remember from the original and have them understand what you're talking about. For the most part. I mean, like I said, the Sherry orphanage thing in Resi 2 remake makes sense. But for the most part, you kind of... Because let's face it, a lot of younger gamers, they don't want to bother themselves with playing the old versions. Like, even you younger guys who can't stand the fixed camera angles, but were still old enough to play Resident Evil 4, you gotta understand that the tank controls, when you hear people complain about them, even though you loved Resident Evil 4 growing up, it bugs you, doesn't it? You hear them whine about it, and you're just like, just fucking get over it. The game was designed around it. You just gotta play it and get over it. Yeah, I feel the same way about fixed camera angles and tank controls. So, welcome to my world in that regard. But because of that stubbornness from younger gamers, they're not gonna play the originals. Sucks. Part of my goal with this channel, it's sort of a tertiary goal, it's not the primary goal, is hopefully the way I talk about these old games makes younger gamers want to play those old games. It's kind of in the back of my mind at all times, but it is what it is. But if remakes are going to be radically different from their original source material, it means that those younger gamers are missing out on true masterpieces, and I kind of talked about this in my last video. And if you love games, that bothers you. It bothers me. I want everyone to experience what I got to experience. But overall, the Resident Evil 4 remake looks. They showed off some melee combat. They showed off some gameplay. Not in the trailer itself so much, but it was a big Capcom showcase. I mean, they also showcased the Resident Evil Village DLC and the reverse stuff. But the gameplay, I don't mind them adding the parry, the chainsaw parry. I don't mind them adding new mechanics, because even in the original Resident Evil remake, they added those self-defense items and the burning of the zombies to prevent them becoming Crimson Heads. Crimson Heads just were not in the original Resident Evil game, and they were in the remake, but that's okay. It was kind of a cool little mix it up, change it mechanic. And I don't mind them adding mechanics to the remake of Resident Evil 4. If it makes the game better, if it makes it more fun, fucking awesome. Let's go with it. Another thing I was worried about was a tonal shift that some of the character and charm and cheesiness wasn't going to be in the remake. But it definitely looks like, even though there's an overall more horror feel to it, just judging from what I've seen in the trailers and the gameplay and just the lighting and shadows and how dark and ominous everything looks. Other than that, the dialogue and just what I've seen of the characters talking, and even in some of the gameplay, looks like it's still, like, for example, Leon's, throwing one-liners out there while he's fighting, Ganados, and that's cool. And if he talks more in the game, I'm cool with that. It's always better for your characters to talk in a video game. I mean, unless they're fucking annoying as shit. That's a mark against them. But, realistically speaking, you're running away from a fucking, like, whole village of people trying to kill you. You're gonna be saying some shit. I mean, it's inevitable, and that also helps with the verisimilitude as well, the realism. When characters act realistically, it's easier to like them in video games. Well, that's one of the criticisms of Ethan Winters in Resident Evil 7 and Village, is he doesn't. Sometimes he doesn't just use his fucking brain, or sometimes he doesn't quite react like a human should react. So anytime they have characters talking more and reacting more realistically, it's a good thing. I did hear that, I guess it was on Twitter, that Capcom said they were taking the dog out. The dog will show up here in a second. But yeah, they were taking the dog out. That dog, which I think is a mistake, because it wasn't hard to save him. The dog, basically, you save the dog from a bear trap early on in the game when you get to the village, and then he runs off, and then he shows up when you're fighting El Gigante right here, and he helps you in the fight by distracting him, by taking his attention off of you and giving you a chance to shoot the shit out of him and cause the parasite to come out so you can fucking cut the shit out of it. Everyone likes the dog. I don't know why they would take it out. My thing is, that's a weird thing for them to announce right away, because it could only ever hurt them. I don't think they calculated what that would do. So I'm assuming there might be a reason they took him out that has nothing to do with, like, oh, well, fuck the dog, we don't even really like dogs. No, I think it's probably something that has to do with the setting. Because it looks like the way Leon is first attacked by the villagers in the remake is going to be a bit different. And if the setting is different, there might not have been a good place to put the dog. And then by extension, the Gigante fight might not even quite take place in the same kind of area, so the dog might not even be needed. But if that's the case, they should probably explain that, because it's going to rub people the wrong way. I mean, why take out something that a lot of people like unnecessarily? Because it's such a small thing. I mean, it wouldn't be a game killer for me, but it's just like one of those things that just, why take that out? If people liked it, why take it out? But it looks like the game's going to retain a lot of its character, and the merchant's going to be there. That was one way that the leaks were wrong. The merchant is back and has even got his kind of Australian mercenary accent. So fuck yeah. We'd also heard that Ramon Salazar was not going to be in the game or changed into another villain, but no, it looks like he's there. So yeah, I'm really fucking psyched. And around the time we got this news, we got news of another remake of a beloved horror game, which is Silent Hill 2. And I was going to talk about my feelings on it in this video, but I was like, I started looking into it and the dev team who's making it and their comments about it, and I was like, you know what, I think I got enough here to make it its own video. So that's going to be my next video, and it is coming very soon, because like I said, I wanted to mention it in this one, but I think I have enough to make a whole separate video. And so these 2 videos will be shorter than what my videos usually run. I also need to play the upcoming DLC, Winter's Expansion, for Resident Evil Village. One of the reasons why I don't have a the biggest flaws of Resident Evil Village video out yet is because I wanted to... around the time I was going to start making it, they announced that there was going to be some DLC, and I didn't see that coming. Even though Resident Evil 7 got DLC much later, they at least announced that there would be DLC. And with Resident Evil Village, they were quiet on it for so long that we weren't sure if it was going to get any DLC. But once they announced, they did, and once they announced, that it was going to be around Rose, I was like, well, that answers one of my questions and one of my chief complaints about Resident Evil Village, which if you haven't played and you don't want to hear spoilers, you should leave. Leave now, because I'm going to spoil this one part. But I think the time jump at the end of Resident Evil Village, where Rose is all grown up, if it is a time jump, I think it's a mistake. I am hoping she is like Evelyn and just ages quickly, but then maintains that age because she's better than Evelyn. But we'll see. In the meantime, yeah, guys, I think the Resident Evil 4 remake will at least be a good game. I hope I don't have to tear it apart. I really do. I am rooting for it at this point. Yeah, I miss the old voice cast, but Capcom's never really done a great job maintaining their voice actors, so it's just more par for the course. You gotta just love the game for being the game.
You're wounded.
But yeah, I'm pretty psyched. It looks really fucking good. I can't wait to play it. Hopefully they'll release a demo that's not, timed. But we'll see. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. I will be coming out with that Silent Hill 2 video very soon, so I'll see you then.